Have you ever noticed that some people can spend years making decisions that aren't good for them and seem completely unaffected? They lie, they manipulate, they ignore themselves, they chase things they don't even want, and for a while it looks like nothing happens. Then there are people who make one decision that's slightly out of alignment with who they are, and almost immediately something feels off. I've been thinking about this, and I don't think it's because the universe plays favorites. I think coherence determines the speed of feedback. The more internally coherent you become, meaning your thoughts, values, behavior, and identity all begin moving in the same direction, the more sensitive your system becomes to anything that doesn't belong. Think about it like tuning an instrument. If an instrument is already out of tune, one wrong note really doesn't stand out because everything else sounds noisy. But if it's perfectly tuned, even one slightly off note becomes obvious. I think human beings work the same way. As I've become more aligned with myself, I've noticed something interesting. Whenever I make a decision that isn't really me, whether I'm ignoring my intuition, compromising my standards, saying yes when I mean no, or acting from fear instead of clarity, I don't have to wait years to realize it. I feel it almost immediately. My energy changes, my peace disappears, something inside me starts pulling me back towards myself, and I used to think that meant that I was somehow being punished more than other people. Now I don't think that's what's happening at all. I think my feedback loops have simply become shorter. The more coherent a system becomes, the faster it detects error, which brings me to something else I've been thinking about. I think people misunderstand consequences. When something difficult happens after we've made a series of poor decisions, we often say things like, God is punishing me, or the universe is getting back at me. But what if reality isn't built on revenge? What if it's built on equilibrium? What if life isn't standing over us, judging every decision we make? What if it's simply responding to the patterns we repeatedly make? Every choice creates momentum, every habit reinforces an identity, every action either moves you closer to coherence or further into fragmentation. Most of the time, those patterns don't show up immediately. They accumulate quietly until eventually the system has to reorganize. Sometimes that reorganization looks like losing a relationship. Sometimes it's burnout. Sometimes it's finally realizing you've been living someone else's life. And sometimes it's the exact opposite. Sometimes living in alignment compounds into peace, healthier relationships, better opportunities, and a life that actually feels like your own. The system isn't asking whether you're a good person or a bad person. It's responding to the direction you're repeatedly moving towards. That's why I don't think feedback is the same thing as punishment. Punishment is about morality. Feedback is about information. Feedback is simply the system telling you the direction you're moving is producing this result. The interesting part is that the more coherent you become, the faster that information arrives. You don't have to wait years for life to tell you something isn't right. You feel it while it's still small enough to change. At first, that can feel frustrating, but now I actually see it as a gift because it means I'm no longer disconnected from myself. I'm receiving real-time feedback instead of delayed consequences. And maybe that's what alignment really is, not becoming perfect, but becoming so connected to yourself that your system lets you know the moment you started drifting away. So my question to you is, do you think the difficult moments in your life were punishment, or were they simply feedback trying to guide you back to equilibrium? Thanks for watching.